Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the information you share with us to help you get quickly informed. Today, we're plunging into a whole stack of recent release notes from Databricks on AWS. These cover updates rolled out between, May 14th, 2024 and May 23, 2025.
Yeah, that's quite a time frame, a lot packed in there. Our goal today is really to cut through all the technical announcements, highlight what's really new or changing, and more importantly, sort of figure out why these changes matter if you're out there building or managing solutions on Databricks on AWS.
Exactly. We're trying to give you the key takeaways, basically, without you having to sift through every single line item yourself. We'll touch on compliance, core platform stuff, developer experience, data management, workflows, and naturally, AI and machine learning. So let's start unpacking these. What nuggets can we find?
Okay, well, if we start with availability and compliance, there's some pretty significant expansions to talk about.
Right, like the FedRAMP Moderate compliance. I saw that's available in more AWS regions now.
That's right. FedRAMP Moderate support, it's been expanded. Now includes AWS US 2, that's Ohio, and also US West 1, Northern California. But it's important to note for FedRAMP Moderate in these specific regions, right now you're looking at classic compute resources only.
Oh.
If you need serverless compute with FedRAMP Moderate, that's still supported, but in US East 1 and US West 2.
Got it. So two new regions for classic FedRAMP, but keeps serverless FedRAMP workloads in those established regions for the time being. But you mentioned US West 1 and serverless. There was a general serverless expansion there too, wasn't there? Separate from FedRAMP?
Yes, good catch. Independently of FedRAMP, serverless compute is now generally available, GA, in the US West 1 region. So this means if your workspace is sitting in US West 1, you can now fire up a serverless SQL warehouses, use serverless compute for notebooks, jobs, DLT, the whole shebang.
That's actually a pretty big deal for anyone in that geography, right? Looking to simplify compute management.
Absolutely. Opens up those serverless options significantly there.
Any other compliance updates, maybe for specific industries or regions?
Yep. There's the Korean Financial Security Institute, or KFSI, compliance controls. They're available now. This is really aimed at helping financial institutions operating in Korea align with their specific financial regulations.
Okay. And what about compliance for the AI and ML side of things? That seems like a hot topic, lots of regulatory focus growing there.
Yeah, good point. And we did see some major advancements there through the compliance security profile. So both Mosaic AI model serving doesn't matter if it's CPU or GPU, and the foundation model APIs, when you configure them with provision throughput, they now support key standards like IPA, PCI DSS, and also UK Cyber Essentials Plus.
Wow. Okay. That is huge. That really opens the door for using those powerful model serving tools for organizations handling like health info under IPA or payment card data with PCI DSS, or even just operating under those UK cybersecurity rules. It broadens the use cases quite a bit.
Exactly. And kind of staying in that secure data collaboration space, Databricks Clean Rooms got an update too. It now supports collaboration with multiple parties. You can have up to 10 collaborators in a single clean room project now.
Multi-party. Yeah, that's essential for complex data sharing.
Yeah.
But how does this update help with the security side of things, especially when you're working with, external groups?
Right. That's where the new notebook approval workflow comes in. It adds this extra layer of control. You can designate specific users as runners. You can require explicit approval before notebooks actually get executed. Or, for partners you really trust, you can even set up auto approval. Plus, there are built-in difference views for auditing any changes. So altogether, it makes clean rooms feel more scalable, definitely more secure, and auditable when you're dealing with several external collaborators.
That approval workflow sounds like it adds some really necessary guardrails. Okay, shifting gears just slightly. Identity and access management. MFA and JIT provisioning came up.
Yep, both hit GA. Databricks multi-factor authentication, MFA, that extra security layer beyond just your password, is now generally available. Account admins can set this up right in Databricks. They can decide whether to just recommend it or actually make it mandatory for users logging in.
And the just-in-time provisioning, that's typically about making user onboarding smoother, right?
Correct. Just-in-time, or JIT, user provisioning, is also now GA. So when you use single sign-on, SSO, for the first time, Databricks can automatically create that user account for you. It just pulls the details straight from your identity provider. It really streamlines getting new users onto the platform, especially helpful in, really large organizations.
Yeah, I can see that. Those identity updates feel pretty foundational for security and just general admin work.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pivot from access and compliance to the core platform itself. What's happening with developer experience?
Well, a familiar one first. Databricks Runtime 16.4 LTS is now generally available. That includes the ML version too. Always good to see a new long-term support release land.
Always good. And what about Databricks apps? That feature's been sort of bubbling up for a while.
It has, and now Databricks Apps has hit general availability. This is actually quite a significant development. It means you can build and run interactive, full-stack applications, think internal tools, maybe complex dashboards, even some customer-facing portals directly inside your Databricks workspace.
Right. Directly inside.
Yeah. They run on managed infrastructure, and they get native, secure access to your data in Delta Lake, your models, your notebooks, everything tied together through Unity Catalog.
Huh. So instead of like pulling data out, building a separate app layer, connecting back, you build it right on the platform where the data and models already live.
Exactly. It feels like it really shortens that distance between getting an insight from your data and actually turning it into an operational application.
Yeah, that could simplify the architecture for a lot of use cases.
Definitely. And on the admin side of things, for pay-as-you-go accounts, managing costs got a bit easier. The subscription and billing tab in the account console has been updated. Better settings.
What kind of improvements are we talking about?
Just more flexibility, really, in managing payment methods. You can easily add or update credit cards, connect your AWS Marketplace accounts, switch between different payment methods whenever you need to, and you get clearer visibility into your active credits, expired credits, that kind of thing.
Always good to have financial flexibility. Okay, let's talk developer tooling. SQL alerts and query snippets got updates.
Yeah, so a new version of Databricks SQL Alerts is now in beta. The main goal here seems to be simplifying the whole workflow. You set up your query, define the conditions for the alert, schedule it, specify who gets notified, all in one single interface now, which is, a nice improvement over the older process.
And the legacy alerts are still around.
Yeah, legacy alerts are still available alongside this new version, but this new unified experience is clearly the direction they're heading.
Makes sense. And query snippets, those are usually for saving typing, right? Little shortcuts.
Exactly. And they've expanded where you can use them. You can now create query snippets not just in the new SQL editor, but also directly within notebook editors and file editors using the View menu. And once you've created them, you can use them pretty much everywhere. The SQL editor, SQL cells inside notebooks, separate SQL files, even in SQL datasets within dashboards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're shareable. They trigger via autocomplete. It's a genuine time saver if you find yourself writing the same common queries or code blocks over and over.
That's a really nice quality of life boost for anyone writing a lot of SQL on the platform. Anything specific for Python users?
Yes, actually. You can now configure Python syntax highlighting directly within Databricks notebooks. You do this using a pyproject.toml file.
Okay, a pyproject.toml file. How does that help? Exactly.
Well, you place this file either in the notebook's ancestor path or just in your home folder. And from there, you can configure linters like rough, pylint, pywrite, flake 8. You can also use it to turn off specific Databricks syntax rules if they conflict with your team's standards or something. So it gives developers more control over code linting and style right inside the notebook environment. Helps align things with standard Python development practices. You do need Databricks Runtime 16.4 or higher, or Client 3.0 plus for this.
Bringing more standard Python dev practices into the notebook. That's definitely a plus. What about connecting to Databricks? Any updates on things like JDBC?
Yeah, the Databricks JDBC driver got an update to version 2.7.3, and it looks like a pretty comprehensive update, actually. Lots of stuff under the hood.
Any key highlights from that driver update we should know about?
There are several. It adds support for Azure Managed Identity using OAuth 2.0, also support for Auth Token Exchange, specifically for identity providers that are different from the host itself. Let's see, Auth Browser Token Caching is now supported on Linux and Mac.
Okay.
For data types, it added support for void, variant, and timestamp NZ in methods like getColumns and getTypeInfo. It also changes how it handles unknown types. It now lists columns with unknown or unsupported types as just SQL varchar in getColumns. And it adds support for the cloud.databricks.us and cloud.databricks.mil domains when using OAuth. Plus the usual dependency upgrades, fixes for some Apache Arrow deserialization issues on newer Java JVMs, and fixes for handling dates way back before the Gregorian calendar.
Wow, that covers a lot of ground. Lots of specific scenarios and edge cases addressed there. Okay, finally in this developer section, there was a note about the Databricks GitHub app. Something about workflows.
Yes. So if you use the Databricks GitHub app for your Git integration, You might get an email request popping up from GitHub. It'll ask for read and write access to workflow scope. This change is legitimate, it's expected. It's basically Databricks making the app's permissions consistent with other ways you might authenticate. And specifically, it's needed to enable committing GitHub actions from Databricks Git folders using the app for authorization.
Ah, okay.
So if you want to use that specific functionality, you'll need to approve that permission change when you see it.
Okay, that clarifies why someone might suddenly see that permission request. Good to know. All right, let's move on then. Data management and workflows. What's new in that whole space?
Well, there seems to be a real push towards better visibility and better management of workflows overall. For instance, there's a new pipeline system table. It's called system.lakeflow.pipelines, and it's now in public preview. This is what's called a slowly changing dimension table, an SCD2. It basically tracks the history of changes for all the pipelines across your entire account.
Okay, a history tracker for pipelines. And the job system table's got an update too.
Yeah, similar story there. The job system tables, also living under that system.lakeflow schema, are now enabled by default in all Unity Catalog workspaces. This is also in public preview.
So system tables for both pipelines and jobs. Does that mean they're becoming more integrated somehow?
That's exactly right. In fact, jobs and pipelines now share a single unified view. This is also in public preview. So you can basically see all your operational workflows, your scheduled jobs, your ETL pipelines, your ingestion pipelines all together in one consolidated list right in the workspace UI.
That should really simplify monitoring, right? And managing those complex data flows that often involve both jobs and pipelines.
Should do, yeah. And there's also a change in how tasks behave within those workflows, specifically around task repair.
Oh, what changed there?
Workflow task repair now respects transitive dependencies. Let me explain. Previously, if you had a chain, say A flows into B, which flows into C. If you repaired task A and task C, C might start running as soon as B finished, even if A, its indirect dependency, wasn't actually done yet.
Ah, I see.
Now it's stricter. If you repair A and C in that same scenario, C will wait until both A and B are completely finished. It respects the full dependency chain upstream.
Okay, that's definitely a behavioral change people building complex dagas need to be aware of. It sounds like it makes the repair logic follow the graph more strictly, which is probably good, but different.
Exactly. More predictable, but yeah, potentially different behavior than before.
Anything new for folks building ETL pipelines using SQL?
Yes, the create view SQL command is now available for use directly within ETL pipelines built using Databricks SQL, so you can define dynamic views as part of your transformation logic.
And what about assets created by DLT, like streaming tables or materialized views? Can you move those around?
Yes, but it's in public preview and only for participating customers right now. You can now move streaming tables and materialized views that were created by Delta Live Tables pipelines in Unity Catalog. Move them from one pipeline to another.
Okay.
But yeah, you need to reach out to your Databricks account manager to get access to that specific preview feature if you want to try it. Useful for refactoring pipelines, I imagine.
Definitely useful for refactoring. Okay, what about lineage tracking? Did those system tables get updates?
They did. The schema for the lineage system tables, that's system.access.column lineage and system.access.table lineage, has been updated. There's a new entity metadata column which replaces some older, now deprecated columns like entity type, entity rooted, entitied. They've also added some new columns, recorded, which acts as a primary key for the lineage record itself. Evented to identify specific lineage events, and importantly, statemented.
Statemented. What does linking to that add? What's the benefit?
Well, that statemented is a foreign key. It links directly back to the system.query.history table. This is pretty powerful because it lets you not just see that a lineage change happened, but you can actually drill down to the specific SQL statement or command that caused that change.
Much better context.
Exactly. Much better context for understanding data flow, debugging issues, auditing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a really big step forward for understanding data provenance. Okay, what about autoloader or triggers that rely on file arrivals? Anything new there?
Yes. File events for external locations are now in public preview. So when you enable this feature on an external location that's defined in Unity Catalog, it improves the underlying mechanism that Databricks uses to detect new files arriving in that location. This benefits both autoloader, making it potentially more efficient, and also file arrival triggers that you might use to kick off jobs. It's aimed at being more scalable and efficient.
Okay, more scalable file detection. Is there a catch?
Just a small one. While you can enable the feature on the external location yourself through the UI or API, Actually, enabling the improved file event support within Autoloader specifically still requires enablement by a Databricks representative.
Right.
So you'd need to contact your account team for that final piece if you want Autoloader to use the new mechanism.
Got it. 2 steps. Enable it on the location, then call your rep for the autoloader part. Okay. And finally, in this data management section, predictive optimization. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, predictive optimization is being enabled by default for all existing Databricks accounts. This rollout actually started back in early May, May 7th, 2025, and they expect it to be completed for everyone by July 1st, 2025.
Enabled by default. What does it actually do?
So when this is active on your account, Databricks will automatically run maintenance operations like optimize and vacuum on your Unity catalog managed tables. It does this in the background for you.
Huh. So the platform just automatically handles some of that critical housekeeping that keeps Delta Lake tables performing well. That sounds like a potential win for operational efficiency, less manual work, but does it have cost implications?
It absolutely does. That's the key thing to be aware of. While it reduces the manual effort, those maintenance operations, the optimize and vacuum runs, they still consume compute and storage resources, and those resources contribute to your cloud bill, right?
Right.
Also, specifically with VACUM, remember that it permanently deletes data files that are older than the defined retention threshold for the table. So if you rely heavily on long-term time travel for things like auditing or maybe rolling back changes, you really need to be mindful of your table's retention policies when this feature gets enabled automatically.
Okay, so it's automated maintenance, which is great,
Mm-hmm.
but you still need to understand what it's doing, especially the cost impact and the data retention aspect with VACUM.
Precisely. Automation is helpful, but you got to know what the automation is doing.
That's a really key detail.
Mm.
Okay, let's wrap things up with the AI and machine learning updates. What stood out there?
Well, first off, the Mosaic AI model serving capability keeps expanding its global reach. It's now available in 3 more AWS regions, up Northeast 2, which is Seoul, US 2 in London, and Say East 1 down in Sao Paulo.
Expanding the options, yeah. Deploying models closer to users or data in those regions. Good stuff. Any specific model availability updates, particularly foundation models?
Yes, Llama 4 Maverick is now supported on the foundation model APIs, but specifically when you're using the provisioned throughput workloads. This is currently in public preview, and it's available to participating customers. So, again, you need to reach out to your account team if you want to get early access to that.
Okay, Llama 4 Maverick via provision throughput in preview. And is it also available via paper token anywhere?
Correct. Llama 4 Maverick is also now available in the EU regions where the Foundation Model API paper token offering is already supported. So broader access there if you're in the EU.
Okay, wow. That was a significant number of updates in just a couple weeks, really. We covered important compliance expansions like FedRAMP hitting new regions and the crucial HEPA APCI DSS support landing on model serving. Core platform features like Databricks apps finally going GA, DBR 16.4 landing, developer tools getting better with simplified SQL alerts, those expanded query snippets, major workflow improvements too, like the unified views, automated maintenance coming with predictive optimization, and of course the continued global rollout of AI capabilities, including making Llama 4 Maverick more accessible.
Yeah, it really does highlight just the rapid pace of innovation happening on the platform. It feels like it touches almost every aspect of how you'd interact with Databricks, from foundational security right up to the cutting edge AI stuff.
So, taking all this in, this constant stream of updates, the push towards more automation, like with predictive optimization, integrating app development closer to the data with Databricks apps, layering on more compliance and security, and just the sheer speed of AI evolution. How does this pace of change and these specific updates we just talked about influence how you should be thinking about leveraging Databricks on AWS for your data and AI work over, say, the next year? Are you set up already to quickly adopt and actually benefit from these new capabilities as they land? Or maybe are there some foundational steps you need to prioritize first to really take advantage of where the platform is heading? Something to think about.